Hello everyone. Today I am going to dealing with the topic Black humor in 20th century literature, absurdity and political critique. Here is my academic information, table of content, and my research question is for this is how does black humor in 20th century literature eliminates the contradiction and failures of political and social structure. Hypothesis is black humor in 20th century literature serves as a critical lens through which authors expose societal contradiction, challenges dominant ideologies, and confront existential dilemmas. By blending the grotesque with the comic, black humor forces readers to engage with uncomfortable truth about power, race, and morality. Introduction. What is black humor? Black humor juxtapose morbid or ghastly images with comical ones that underscores the senseless of futility of life. Black humor often uses farce and low comedy to make clear that individuals are helpless victims of fate and character. Relevance of black humor in 20th century literature. Black humor arose in response to social political crises of 20th century, particularly war, oppression, disillusionment. Through absurdity and irony, it exposed the collapse of traditional morality and logic questioning societal institution and highlighting the contradiction of modern existence. So, war and failure of logic. The devastation of world wars and Cold War's paranoia lead to works like Joseph Heller's Sketch 2020. 22 novel, which highlights the absurdity of military bureaucracy, and Kurt Vonnegut's Law for a Housewife, blending surreal humor with war trauma. This novel is banned in many countries, subverting dominant narrative. Black humor become a tool for marginalized voice. Ralph Emerson's Invisible Man critiques racial invisibility through satire, while Arvind Adiga's The White Tigers exposes India's caste and corruption with dark wit. Political critique through absurdity. Writers mocked power structure using irony as seen is George Orwell's 1984 and the Indian satirical classic Srilal Shukla's The Rag Darbari, which critiques rural politics and systemic corruption of a post Indian society. Modern influence from Jordan Peele's Get Out to HBO's Succession, black humor remains a potent tool for critical societal absurdities. It thrives as an aesthetic response to collapsing a moral and logical framework. Succession is a series of American dark humor which reflects more black humor as a response to absurdity. Wagner states that absurdist writer proclaim the irrationality and apparent meaninglessness of existence, defying the absurdity of life by its very affirmation. Black humor in literature highlights the futility of human struggle while embracing its absurdity. Here is example for Waiting for Godot. True times. Two tramps wait endlessly for Godot, who never arrives. Their circular dialogues reflect the meaningless repetition of life. The metamorphosis. George Samsa wakes up as a giant insect, yet his family treats here this grotesque transformation with disturbing indifference. The novella critiques alienation and absurdity in modern life. Black humor in these works underscores existential absurdity, questioning traditional moral and logical structures. Black humor in African American literature, resistance through humor. Black humor critiques systematic oppression while serving as an act of resistance, expose racial stereotypes and challenges dominant narratives through satire and absurdity. Literary cultures and examples. Invisible Man. This uses surrealism and irony to highlight racial uh, invisibility, identity, and struggles. Jumbo Mumbo, this is a novel by Ismail Reed, blends satire and historical revisionism to critique racial and cultural erasures. Richard Pryor's stand-up comedy confronts racial and social injustice through sharp wit and dark humor. Role of absurdity in political critique. HUAS, ACs, and Cold War paranoia. The paranoia in American and Cold War surveillance created an environment of absurd fear and suspicious. Joseph Heller's Catch 22 exemplifies how bureaucracy and war operates on self contradictory logic where survival depends on navigating irrational rules. Stanley Kubrick's The Strange Love satirized nuclear brinkmanship, showing political leaders making a ludicrous decision leading to destruction, capitalism, and racial inequality. The absurdity of systemic oppression in evident Ralph Evison's Invisible Man. This is novel, and there are many movie adaptation on this Invisible Man, where a protagonist rendered socially invisible due to racial bias. Ismail Reed's Mumbo Jumbo employs surreal humor to critique cultural appreciation of and history revision. Indian comedian Kunal Karma's stand-up performances use satire to expose political hypocrisy and media bias, much like Richard Pryor's critique of racism through comedy. Black humor in film adaptation. So challenges in adapting black comedy into film. So censorship and commercial constraint. Many adaptation of black humor face challenges due to censorship and audience expectation. The dark satirical elements often get softened to make films more commercially viable. For example, Nathaniel West Miss Lonely Heart was adapted into Lonely Heart, but it lost much of its dark comic edge. As Pogel and Chamberlain observe, Miss Lonely Heart, Nathaniel West's important black comic novel, became a Lonely Heart in the 15s, but it was not even funny when it could have been. Successful adaptation of Jojo Rabbit. So Talika Waititi's Jojo Rabbit adapts black humor to critique Nazi ideology through the lens of child. The film blends comedy and tragedy, portraying Nazi leader as a buffoonish to mock irrationality of fascism by depicting Hitler as an imaginary friend, as satirized blind loyalty and indoctrination, exposing the absurdity of nationalism and propaganda. Black humor involves an ultimate and finally frightening or horrifying subversion of all logical structures, even the medium through which the comic itself conveyed. Black comedy, at its best, permits an audience not single refuge or crutch, according to Chamberlain. A contemporary example of black humor. So if we see it in movies, so Gilota states through black humor, African American artists destabilize conventional racial narratives, refusing easy categorization. Modern creations use satire and absurdity to critique race, politics, and social issue. So for example, Rajkumar Hirani's PK critiques religious dogma and blind faith through satire. For example, in the movie, protagonist native question exposed the absurdity of religious hypocrisy. Charlie Brooker's The Black Mirror. Black Mirror uses dark satire to critique technology, media, and social behavior. For example, the episode Nurse Jave humorously exaggerated a world where social media rating determine person's worth, exposing an absurdity of online validation culture. Veerdas for India. This is show Indian comedian Veerdas uses satire to critique social and political issue in India. His Netflix special Veerdas for India blends humor and cultural commentary on topics like colonial history, religious tension, and censorship. Black humor as a universal phenomenon. International scope of the absurdist movement transcends national boundaries, incorporating diverse literary traditions. As Wagner states, with headquarters in Paris and exponents in Germany, England, Italy, Spain, Switzerland, and the United States, the absurd might be regarded as a cosmopolitan movement nourished by international sources. For example, from global literature, so the Master and Margarita by Mikhail Bulgakov satirized Soviet bureaucracy and censorship through the surreal narrative involving the devil visiting Moscow, used dark humor to highlight the absurdity of totalitarian control and ideological oppression. The Teen Drum by Gunter Grass, the grotesque and satirical take on World War II and post-war Germany, uses absurdity to critique nationalism, historical amnesia, and the complicity of ordinary people in fascism. These works demonstrate that black humor serves as a powerful tool to critique oppressive system and historical absurdities across different cultures. Conclusion. Black humor serves as a powerful lens through which writers, filmmakers, and comedians critique societal absurdity, political oppression, and existential anxieties. From the theater of the absurd to contemporary satire, it destabilized conventional narratives, exposing the irrationality of war, racism, and ideological extremism. As Wagner and Gilotta suggest, black humor is a universal phenomenon transcending cultures to challenge authority and provoke critical thought. Whether in a literature, film, or stand-up comedy, it remains a crucial tool for resistance and reflection in an increasingly absurd world. Here are my references, and thank you. Now, if you have any question, then feel free to ask.
Pali, my question is, how does black humor use comedy to highlight social injustice and challenge those in power?
Yes, as a black humor is one of the most that it used to reflect serious. It used to reflect serious and serious matters in a simple ways. But if you see by joke on those who are in power, it reflects people to see that reality of their and in comic way reality of them.
Krupali, my question is does black humor help people understand serious issue better, or can it make them care less about them?
According to me, I think black humor can do both. It helps people to see serious matter in better way and in a reflective. And if it is too much, then people are don't take it seriously. That's it. Thank you.